You know, just when the Cavs look like they're going to slump, somebody decides to hit Donovan Mitchell in the groin and start a streak, and thank you, Dylan Brooks, for starting this streak because the Cavs have had a lead in every game they've played since then, and including that game, of 20 or more. In one of those games, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland did not play. It was against the Pistons, but still.
Mm-hmm.
In each game since then, did Dylan Brooks wake up a sleeping giant in the Cavs?
I think he did, man. I feel like in that moment, I was at the Grizzlies game, so I could feel the energy in the arena. And first of all, you don't see like fights in NBA games like that. Like that just doesn't really happen very much. So it was just kind of crazy the way the entire crowd like jumped in and reacted. And it just felt like in that moment, I was like, this is the turning point for this team. Like something is about to shift because I feel like it was easy for everyone to like rally around Donovan in that moment. Like he not only like hit him in the groin, he like clearly rolled over onto his foot. It was very intentional. And I feel like that's what they needed to just like rally together and be like, all right, you know what? We're like the nice team of a bunch of young kids, but we're not letting people push us around anymore. We're a good team. We need to show people that. And from that moment, they have been unbeatable, really. And it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, like it's almost like it's giving them a bit of an edge. Not to say that they're not the '03
The Grizzlies.
Trailblazers or something like that, or like the Zebo Grizzlies, but there is a perception of the Cavs that's out there, right? Where these are all very nice gentlemen. You know what I mean? Like
What Darius said. What did he say? Like nice young boys or something?
yeah, we're nice young men. What
Yeah.
Darius Garland, not really like the most chippy guy on the roster. You have Donovan Mitchell, not known for being super chippy. You go down to Isaac Okoro. The only guy on the roster that you could say is like ever has a reputation for chippy, and it's not even because he gets into fights. It's Lamar Stevens. It's just because Lamar Stevens is just, I don't know. He just got rested angry face sometimes. Like, I think that's really what it is. But like Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, they're both very quiet guys.
Yep.
So, sometimes I think JB said it the best, which is people might mistake our kindness for weakness. And sometimes you got to let them know that it ain't going to fly, right? And I think that was an important attitude change for this team. I think it came at the right time because around that time they were slumping, right? Like they were looking lackadaisical. They were looking like they were unfocused. We talked about it being, hey, they just hit the dog days. And that really woke them up out of hibernation, I think, is like when the Grizzlies decided they were going to try to pull that one on national TV. Then it's the Grizzlies who are that team in the NBA. And when I say that team, I'm not saying like they're the team in the NBA. That's the Celtics right now. But they are the team in the NBA that's like, every team, every league, every year has a team that talks a little bit too much before the season starts. And the Grizzlies happen to be that team. And now they're getting everybody's best effort. And I think all of that kind of rolled into this perfect kind of cocktail of, okay, things are opening up. We need to take advantage. And then we can mix some trade deadline into this. I think that is also going to help accelerate this because now if you're the Cavs, you're looking at, hey, we really need to get the 3 seed, to avoid KD and Kyrie. Well, they're not there anymore. Both of them are gone. So now it's, hey, the East is open for us, right? We could, if you get a top 3 seed or the 2 seed, right, which is still possible for them. Let's say you get the 2 seed. That means you get to avoid Boston, right, until the final round. And if you get to that Eastern Conference Finals, anything can happen. And this is a Boston team you've had success with. All of a sudden things have opened up for you. I also like that during the stretch that it hasn't been on the back of some great Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland performances. What has really woken up on this team has been the interior, right? Where we're getting 20 points almost from Jared Allen and Evan Mobley a night. And I think that's more of a symptom of the offense being ran well versus like them trying to make something happen because it's not like their shot attempts have gone up, their efficiency has. And that just means that the guards are operating at a higher efficiency when they're like, okay, Evan's here. I'm going to get it to Evan. We're going to talk about Evan Mobley and him making the quote unquote leap here soon. But I think that's been the biggest thing for this team is the physicality has gone up with them inside the paint, right? Like they are deciding now we are controlling the paint. That's how they won last night.
Right. And I think you're right. That's coming from both Evan and Jarrett. Like Evan has looked more confident than he ever has before. And Jarrett, like even last night against the Pistons in, a quieter game, like he had some incredible dunks. Like just the things that they're doing right now are great. And beyond that, I just think the bench is the other reason that we have been doing what we're doing. It's not such a drop off when, Donovan's struggling or Donovan and Darius aren't on the court for whatever reason. Like the bench has been able to pick up the slack a little bit, which, before our last episode, we weren't able to say that. We were just begging for like even 10 points from the bench. It was like, can someone just come in and have a good game? Like Jetty's been doing well. Ricky's been doing well. They've all been coming in and contributing. And I think that's the one other factor that's helped this team not just win, but win decisively.
Yeah, we touched on it. There's some of the trade deadline stuff. Cavs didn't make a move. I think a lot of people anticipated Cavs making a move. I think for me, the closer and closer the deadline got, the more and more the reality of it kind of set into me where it's like, okay, yes, I want them to make a move because I do think there are moves that would make them better. Mm-hmm. But was there any move that was going to change the ceiling on this team? And I don't think that move existed. So the way I think the Cavs thought about it was, if there is no move that's going to change the ceiling, if there is no move that's going to make us a more capable team, then what is the point in making a move? And I think that's what factored in. And also it's like, hey, if you make a move here and you get rid of a bunch of assets for somebody that you're not really getting at a discount, what if somebody who you do want becomes available at a discount in the offseason is available? The ideal in the trade deadline is, hey, you want to get somebody that's going to take you past where you're gone. And I don't think there's anybody they could have traded for realistically.
Yeah.
That was going to take this team from possible Eastern Conference Finals contender, maybe like a sneaky, like they like if something happens to other teams, they can sneak into the finals. That's been their ceiling the whole year. I don't think that's changed, and I don't think there was anybody that they could have gotten where I'm like, all right, put it in pen. The Cavs are in finals contention this year, and I think that's the move that they were like, hey, if we can make that move, we'll make it. But if that move's not on the table, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, and I think Kobe said that much in his press conference today for the most part, like that they were looking around, but just the right offer wasn't there. And look, like I feel like every team needs a 3-and-D wing, like everyone wants one. So we were probably going to have to overpay for that. And we don't necessarily have the assets at this point. Like, of course, you could put like Karras or, another guy in a trade. But in terms of picks, like we gave up a lot of picks to get Donovan. It's not like we have a ton of stuff out there that we want to be giving up right now. So I'm pretty comfortable with where we're at too. If you asked me that a week ago before we went on this little streak, I might have felt a little bit differently about not making a move. But to see the way the bench has started to step up, the way things have started to come together while Donovan's not playing well, I think has given me more confidence that at least this team can make a decent run. I don't think it's, the finished product that's going to win a championship, but I do think for the moment, this was one of the better choices. There were two moves today that I thought maybe would have been interesting for us, which were Josh Hart, who ended up on the Knicks, and Luke Kennard, who ended up on the Grizzlies. And, it could have been interesting, but at the same time, like, I don't know what we would have had to give up to get there that would have been right for us at the end of the day. So I'm feeling okay.
And like this Cavs team has had to deal with a lot of moving parts all season, right? Half the season was integrating Darius and Donovan into working with each other. They never worked with each other before. And then we just got done integrating Ricky Rubio back into the starting lineup. And it would be like, okay, now shut it down. We got to reintegrate somebody else. And I think that probably factored into it. Maybe they're just like, hey, let's just see how far we can take this roster now. And then in the offseason, we'll figure it out, because that's the advantage the Cavs have. They are ahead of schedule, you know, so they don't have to make a panic move to fit a timeline right now. They can sit and wait and say, hey, you know, we think wing's going to be an issue in the playoffs. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Isaac can guard some of these larger wings, and we find out in the playoffs he's fine there. Okay. Like, you figured it out, right? Or I am right. He can't do that. And then you go, okay, well, now we know. You know what I mean? It's not like if you don't win this year, you're like, man, that was a great opportunity to win a championship. I don't think that's going to be the feeling coming out after the playoffs. It's going to be, hey, we need to make some moves. We need some players to get better. I've said this. A lot of this, I mean, the big trade deadline trade we're waiting on is like, when does Evan Mobley become the best player on the team, right?
Right.
He's getting there faster than you think. He is growing rapidly. But that's when this team's going to be ready, is like when Evan Mobley's not just in the defensive player of the year conversation, not just in the all NBA defensive team conversation, but when he becomes a part of, you know, the all-star starter conversation, the MVP conversation. And I mean, he putting up stat lines like 17, 11, and I think 6 in one game.
Yeah. Crazy. He's just playing so much more like scrappy too. Like, I don't know. He's just getting involved in different ways rather than hesitating and standing back. Like, I feel like he's just always constantly involved in like his, you know, wingspan is like the length of the court. So he's always just reaching somewhere and getting involved, not, you know, defensively, but offensively, just being more decisive when he's going up with the ball, which I feel like we've talked about maybe in the last few weeks that we just weren't seeing from him before. And it just continues to get better because I feel like he's starting to have more opportunities to actually do that. Like before, I don't know if it was being prioritized as much, but almost with Donovan not playing as well or him sitting, I feel like we've had to, you know, find other ways to get offense, and in times that has been getting Evan some more shots, and we've seen success with it.
You know, the term I would use is purposeful. He looks a lot more purposeful, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference between when you look at him this year versus last year. Last year, when he shot it, it felt like a settle. Like, you know, it felt like that wasn't the shot he wanted.
Yeah.
That's the shot he took. This year with Evan, it don't look like he takes any shots that he don't want to take.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Shots.
Yeah.
Even if he misses, it's a good shot.
Yeah, every time he takes a shot, it looks clean. It goes up clean. Like, you know, it doesn't look like he's trying to figure it out anymore offensively. It looks like it's there. And I think that's why his jumper looks so much better, because last year he was taking a lot of bad jumpers, right? Where he's like, elbow, I guess I'll take this. Where now he's more comfortable, confident, and purposeful out there, to where, I mean, he does stuff every game on both sides of the end that I'm like, wow. Every night. I mean, like one of them, he did like a drop step spin, and he just dunked it. And then there was one, I forget which game this was, but this is in the stretch of games they won by 20. He almost went up and around and reverse jammed a rebound. And I was like, what did he like just attempt to do? What did It was ridiculous what he attempted to do there. And, you know, I've said this in a video, and I'm interested to see what you think. You know, we get all over the place with comps for him because I don't think we've seen a player quite like him, right? You know, sometimes it's Kevin Garnett, and I can see some of the Kevin Garnett in the modern NBA. Sometimes it's Tim Duncan. I think that has more to do with demeanor and defensive ability
I think so too.
than it does his actual play style. Because hey, good post scoring big who can defend well. They go Tim Duncan, and then he's a pretty calm dude like Tim Duncan, right?
We haven't heard from Tim Duncan in years.
Yeah, you know,
that will be Evan Mobley when he's done with the game. We won't hear from him for like a decade.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to be on the broadcast or nothing like that. That don't seem like his personality. But you know, I think we get that from his demeanor, right? The guy that I'm like, when I look at it and I think about it, and I'm like, who does he remind me of? It's a young Anthony Davis, where it's like AD was a really good shot blocker, real good defender. I think there's some key differences. I think he's bigger than Anthony Davis. I think he can hold his weight better than Anthony Davis, which is going to help him avoid injury problems down the line.
which Anthony Davis didn't avoid.
Yeah. Well, part of Anthony Davis's thing too is that like he's one of those dudes that if he ain't 100%, he ain't playing. Right.
Yeah.
That it's more. It's so like you're not always 100% in the NBA.
No.
So like he misses games not because his body is like breaking down, but because he doesn't play unless he's 100%. And
Right.
we're just seeing how many games dudes aren't 100% for in the NBA because like if he has a cold, he ain't playing. Like he's dead serious about that.
Yeah.
So he's not playing through anything. But Evan, he's a little bit different than that. I think defensively they're very similar. 1 through 5 guys. I think Evan likes playing the 5, so you don't have the same issues with Anthony Davis there. And then offensively, I mean, like you go back and watch like early Anthony Davis stuff, it's identical. It is identical offense to what he does. Where Anthony Davis has that streaky jumper. I think Evan Mobley, like when that jumper's going, it is a beauty. When it's not, it's not. Yeah, but I think they're very similar players there, and I think that's who, like, if he continued at this rate of development, he'll probably become Anthony Davis in the future.
Right.
I think he can be better than that, but I think that's probably where this thing is pointed towards.
Yeah, which honestly would be great because I feel like people forget that Anthony Davis at his best was like one of the top players in the NBA. Like, I feel like we forget about that because of the last few years and all of his injuries and just the fact that since the bubble year, things haven't really come together in LA at all. But Anthony Davis at his best, like if that's what we get from Evan Mobley, like I am good with that.
He was the best player on the championship team.
Oh yeah. He was better than LeBron for the most part in that series. I like that comp. I still like, I don't know why Garnett in my mind still feels like that comp always makes sense to me. And I don't know. They have such different demeanors though. So it is kind of weird.
That is the most hilarious thing because like I could see the Garnett thing. It's just like me visualizing.
I know. Cause Garnett
Evan
is
Mobley
so
and Kevin Garnett. Yeah. Because like they couldn't be more opposite.
Yeah.
Than them, right?
Truly.
It is like, who was his polar opposite contemporary in the league? It was Tim Duncan. That's who, when he like is not playing basketball, you're like, man, that guy reminds me of Tim Duncan, right? Off the floor. But then he plays and it's like, hey, he kind of reminds me of KG.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's such an odd combination of traits.
It is weird. It's like he took different parts of each of them and just came out as Evan Mobley. But I like the way he is. I'm happy with it. So we'll keep him.
He's such an intriguing player here. I think people are going to complain about like the 3-point shot not being there. That's bonus cookies. If he starts making threes, okay. I'm in the whole, like, I think he's going to be at the level of like, it don't matter if he's making threes. I think that's
when the MVP talk will happen, is if he starts draining threes like that.
Well, and I was listening to somebody and they're like, hey, we kind of like overvalue spacing when it comes to like a big shooting threes because it takes a big away from the basket. And we also don't factor in, like, the Cavs might not have a ton of spacing when it comes to their bigs, but what they do is they stretch the floor vertically with lobs because both Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are not just lob threats. They are the NBA's best lob threats. With some of the NBA's best lob givers in Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. I think they lead the NBA in dunks, right? Yeah. So that's the versatility that they're providing, is that they're stretching the team vertically. And it doesn't show in like, oh, they're going to get a ton of lobs all the time. But it does show in like, hey, how many times have you seen it to where the other team rotates and crashes so hard towards the interior whenever Darius Garland does that little scoot dribble to kind of like see if he's going to float or push shot or try to like get a oop. And then somebody crashes in because they see Evan go in, and then Jetty just slides over that corner three. We kick it there, wide open three. That's because of the vertical spacing that this team has. And I think that's an important thing that we don't factor. A lot about what bigs do and a guy like Evan Mobley does, we don't really talk about a lot because it's such a guard, a perimeter player dominated league that we've forgotten to talk about the things that bigs can do to really make your life easier. And it factored in why it took so long for us to be like, oh, Giannis might be the best player in the NBA because he couldn't shoot a jumper, right? And we can't imagine a world where a player is impactful because he's not a jump shot threat. But that is the world we live in. Like, guys have
Yeah.
been impactful without being 3-point threats for a long time in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I think Evan's going to be a guy, like, he might never be a great 3-point shooter, but like, who cares? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Right. We have other options. Like he just creates options for you to find different ways to score still, which is fun. There was one Jared Allen dunk yesterday that it just keeps flashing in my mind where I think his entire body was over the rim. I was like, did he
Was
just
that the
jump
one where
like
he squatted down like Spider-Man at the
yeah,
end?
and yes, it was like a full, almost like a full windmill. It was like insane. I was like, what just happened? Like, are you okay, Jared? It was awesome. I love
I
watching
don't know
those
if
two.
he gets high, but he gets back. Like, and he
Yeah.
cracks it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
He put his whole body into it.
like when he dunks, you can hear somebody say, "Get out the way!"
Yeah.
Like
It was so good.
he dunks much stronger than he is. Like that is
Yeah.
incredible. Speaking of
Yeah.
strong dunkers, Isaac Okoro. He's been pretty good the last stretch of games here. Cavs have been looking for a solution at the 3 spot. I think what they found with Isaac, and this is something I've touched on before, where Isaac is kind of undersized for 3 in today's NBA, but if you ask him to defend smaller perimeter players, he can do that, and he's really good at it, and he's
Yeah,
much
he's
better when he
great.
starts. Yeah, he's one of the best at it right now.
Right.
I have concerns about how effective that might be in a playoff series because I don't know how much of that specifically is going to be used for him. But what I do like to see out of him, that offensive growth, I think is legitimate with him, right? I think some of the 3-point stuff might not stick as long, but I think the stuff where, he's able to have a nice little jumper and a nice little package of layups he can go to when he decides he's going to up fake and then crash to the rim. I think those are things that weren't there for him last year, right? Yeah. And if I go back to my complaints about him, well, not my complaints, but what I wanted him to improve at as a player, I wanted him to get to the free throw line more often. That's what he's been doing this year. I wanted him to get a little bit better at 3. I just like 30%, 35. Like that's fine for me for the player he's going to be asked to be.
Yeah.
And just be more aggressive attacking the rim because I think he can do that. And that's what he's been. He's also been like, he does little stuff and he's kind of anti, and I'm not going to say the other player's name because I don't want to seem like I'm just dogpiling on him, but he's kind of anti version of another player on this roster where it's like, he does little things that are like, oh yeah, that really helped this team win, or he really helped make sure that this run didn't fall apart here because he just ran down and got a dunk here instead of like trying to like dribble out the clock or anything like that. And I think that's been important. We talked about the big play. I mean, Jared Allen had 16 rebounds at 20 points, and he's not an all-star. It's crazy.
Ridiculous.
We'll talk about Darius Garland not making the All-Star team and how wild that is. But you also mentioned the bench. Dean Wade last night had 10 points. Now, Lamar Stevens had 9. I think he went 4 for 4 in the last 12 minutes of the game. Like, I think he went it in garbage time, and he just decided it was his time to shine.
Yeah. That was like Rolo garbage time. So, yeah.
Yeah, Rolo had 5 points. But Jetty had 6. Ricky Rubio had 8. Now that means he's not going to play. Well, no, because they didn't play. Yeah, so he'll play on Friday, right? Because they don't play tonight. Yeah, so because he doesn't do back-to-backs yet. Right. Kevin Love got another DNP. He has not played in a while. There's a controversy out there. Do you think this is because he might just be done? Or do you think this is because they're like, hey, let's give him some rest. Let's give him till after the All-Star break and then try to see if that helps him?
Yeah, I wasn't sure at first when it started happening, but after Kobe talked today, I feel like it is just getting him rest, getting him healthy till the All-Star break. And then, post that point, they might try to get him involved in the rotation a little bit. Look, like he was 0% useful for this team when he is hurt at this point. Like he's not helping. He's really just hindering them and hurting them. So I think it was the right decision to like shut it down until he is healthy again. But from what Kobe was saying today, I just get the vibe that like they still plan on using him in some way at some point this season. Now, like, I don't know what time that will be at because I would hate for it to be too close to playoffs and then we're trying to find ways to get Kevin Love involved again and messing up whatever rotation we're working through at that time. So I'm hoping like maybe we know either way after the All-Star break pretty quickly, like, hey, this is how we're moving forward with Kevin. Because I don't want it to mess with whatever vibe we have, April timeframe.
I think everybody in Cleveland wants like a game 5 Kevin Love game where he
I
comes in.
know.
He's not been playing forever, and we need him to come in because somebody's in foul trouble, and Kevin
Yeah.
Love smacks like 7 threes in the third quarter
He
or
can
something
still
like
do
that.
that when he's at his best. Like he's got it in him. He just needs to be healthy because he's awful when he's not healthy.
Now, speaking of awful, let's talk about the NBA's all. Like, first of all, with all the trades that have happened, I don't know like how that affects the All Star
That's
stuff.
a
Like,
great point.
because like they traded 2 starters to the West. So, like, do they just go to the West team or the West pool of players and
Right.
do 2 Eastern Conference players come in? I imagine that for complex, like they don't want to make it complex, so they just
Yeah.
keep the same group of starters in. But
Yeah.
like that's going to be interesting to see, even if like those who want to play in the All Star game. You might have guys like it is in Utah, so like some guys
Right.
might like
Right.
oh, can't make it.
Well,
Oh, I got a calf injury.
I feel like Durant, I think Durant said he's not playing. I'm pretty sure he
Yeah,
already announced that.
yeah. So
That
and
could be
then
a way for our guy to get in. I don't know.
yeah, because I think Kyrie was not going to be in, but then he got traded, and I don't know. I don't know if he like because he's already played a game in the West. That's the thing too. Like
I know.
so like I
It's
don't
so
know
weird.
how that works with the All Star voting and all that. It's not a real system, so it might just be fugazi flakakta stuff. But Darius Garland, you know what? I feel like we did this to ourselves with Darius Garland. We talked so much about what Darius Garland was not doing that we forgot to mention that he's just as good as he's ever been.
Literally.
And we we do this thing to where we get so addicted to stats and the averages, we don't think about the context in which they come in. And the context is he's this good while having the ball less. You know what I mean?
Yes.
While having more responsibility in the first quarter to get his guys involved, while being on a team that's better, so teams are playing them harder every game. On playing against a harder schedule than he did at the first half of last year.
Hmm.
He's maintained that level of play, and I don't know if he makes the All-Star team this year. I thought he should have made it, but he, to me, I mean, like, if he's not an all-star, I don't know what an all-star
I know.
is.
Well, and it's weird because statistically he is like the same, player as he was last year, but I feel like it's almost a mentality thing where last year it was like, "Oh my God, look at Darius Garland like leading this Cavs team," whereas now I feel like the way he's talked about is a little bit different and people aren't necessarily looking at like the actual play, just more like, "Oh, he's, second to Donovan now and they're all figuring out how to work together." And it like the newness of it wears off cuz he's kind of consistently doing the same thing that he's been doing. And I feel like you can get forgotten about in those situations. And I feel like that's what's happened to him in a way, even though like there has not been a step back for Darius Garland. Darius Garland was an all-star last year. So if he was an all-star last year, like he should be one this year based on the way he is playing. Now, I will say like the East is so competitive. So it was there. I feel like everyone has like a snub on their team where like, God, this guy should have been in it, like very upset about it. So it is tough in that sense. But I'm with you. I feel like he should have been an all-star, and I'm hoping that with whoever, sits out for injury or whatnot, that he still gets to be in it.
He's averaging more points, now point 0.3 points more
Right. But
on
still,
one less shot. Same field goal percentage as last year. He's actually a better 3-point shooter off the same amount of attempts as last year. So he was at 38.3 last year. He's at 41.5. 41.5. That's insane 3-point percentage that we just
crazy.
kind of look over in today's
Right.
NBA. And he's turned the ball over much less. He was at 3.6 turnovers a game last year. Well, not a game. Well, no, yeah, a game last year
Yeah. But
versus
that last year,
2.9.
he had the ball in his hand so much last year that it was like probably bound to happen more.
with
like
the
a
usage
product of
rate
his
that has gone
environment.
down too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's a better player than he was. Like, again,
Yeah.
the truth with some of these players is that it's in the context, right? Because you could look at Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and say they plateaued.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're watching them closely, and then you're looking at the context in which your numbers come up in, they have not. They're getting better.
Yeah.
Darius Garland, and it's amazing the growth he is, because like if you just drop somebody into the like watching a Cavs game and said, "Hey, Darius Garland, what do you think he was naturally good at coming out of college?" Oh, playmaking, right? Like, he is a great playmaker and
Yeah.
all this stuff, and finishing around the rim. Those are the two things you would
Right.
say. Those were the two things he sucked at coming out
Yeah.
of high school.
He was like the worst player in the NBA his first year. Like,
Yeah.
wasn't there some like statistic where he was like truly like the worst player in the
Said
NBA?
somebody wrote an article. I think it was in I think JJ Redick did an interview with him where they talked about that. But yeah,
That's
this dude,
crazy to think about.
think about his first 2 years. He was at 12.3 points a game, and he was shooting 40% from the field on 12 shots. Like, that's crazy that he is
Crazy.
jumped
He has
in
made
this
such a jump.
efficiency. You know, and part of it's just him having the ball in his hands. If you hear him talk about like how he goes about it, he's like, hey, in the first quarter, I'm not looking to score as much as I'm looking to get guys involved and,
Right.
and reward my bigs and all that. And it shows the maturity in his game. And this is a guy
Yeah.
who is only in his 4th year in the NBA. And we forget how young a 4th-year player is in the NBA, but he's not even 25 yet, right? Like, he's like 23 or something like that.
Yeah, he's a kid.
Yeah. And then you look at Evan Mobley, and man, like, the difference to me, I know it's not showing up in his averages yet. I think it will by the end of the season. He'll probably be at like 17, 18 points, because I think he's going to start getting the ball more as they move into more of a playoff rotation. You'll see shots get taken away from Karis LeVert. You'll see shots getting taken away from other players in this game on this team. And then those shots got to go to Evan, because like it's at a point now to where I'm like, Evan's got to get the ball a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, when I watch him, I'm like, he's one of their best offensive options. Jared Allen's a great piece on offense, but he's more of a recipient of other things, right? Like, you're not giving Jared Allen the ball at like the foul line, and he's making like, he's getting 20 points that way. But Evan Mobley, he's not at 20 points from like that like just creating it on his own, but he'll get like 8 points at least off of the offense. I think he get the other 12, just getting the ball at the wing and really attacking somebody, especially if he has a good matchup. Because like, he does some advanced stuff for a guy in his 2nd year in the NBA. I mean, like, I saw him start front, end up in a post, spin around and hook on somebody. I'm like, dog, that's not normal. like it's not, like, so much of this stuff you see with him, it's not normal to see somebody do. And it was like that defensively. Now he's gotten so good defensively that now we're like, okay, offensively we're seeing him do stuff that's like, oh, he can do that too. Yeah, the future's bright with Evan Mobley. He is I don't know what Jalen Green and Cade have been doing and Scotty Barnes have been doing.
Don't care.
I'm telling you right now, Evan Mobley's the best player in that draft class.
Oh yeah. It's clear at this point, which I feel like, ever since he was snubbed for Rookie of the Year, he's taken that sentiment personally and been like, I will show you I am the best player in this draft class. And that's a good draft class too, for the most part. Like, it was going to be a competitive group there up top, and he has just continued to make strides. The only things which I think I said last time that he can clean up, still some issues with foul shooting, which like can come with time, and a couple like weird turnovers a game that are just like pretty rough. But other than that, like, it's looking pretty good.
And even with the turnovers, like, it seems like he just figured it out. Like, and the thing with Evan Mobley is like, sometimes you'll have these things where it's like, oh yeah, he doesn't look as physical, he doesn't look as aggressive, and he just figures it out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, he's super young.
Handle like the 1 to 2 bad turnovers a game if he's giving you so much else, like sometimes when you're trying to, create shots for yourself, maybe you bobble the ball and there's a turnover here and there. We can live with that if he's, continuing to do those things.
Yeah, now if you look at the month of February, he's averaged 16 points. He averaged 17 points in the month of January. And this is from a slow start, right? So October and November, he averaged about 15. December 14, and then it got as low as like 13.8 in December. Since then, it's been 17.
Yeah.
And on 13 shots. So the shot attempts have gone up. Well, how many shots was he getting? He was only getting like 10 shot attempts early in the season. So he got his shot attempts moved up from 10 to 13. He went to 17 points on 55% shooting. So just similar efficiency. And now he's getting moved up there from 13 to 14, and he's still on about 50% shooting at about 17 points a game here. He's probably going to go up as time goes on, and he gets used to getting these shots in games. There is a evolution happening here. I know people expected it to be at the beginning of the year, but I think he's kind of becoming, he's finally put it all together where it's like, hey, I'm confident, I'm purposeful, I know what I'm doing, I know that I'm strong, and he's really getting through guys. And is it just me, or does he look like he physically got bigger in the middle of the year?
Yeah, I was at the game yesterday, and I feel like I was like noticing it more in person, even like looking at him. He definitely does look bigger. I think, what's funny? My favorite thing about Evan whenever he does, like when they pull him aside at the end of the game for an interview, if he was kind of like the star of that game, he has the same like answers for every single question. Like, I think he hates talking in general, because he's just like, they'll be like, what did you do great, Jay? He's like, just getting my teammates involved, happy we got the win. And then he'll just like stop. He doesn't want to say anything else. He just is like, just keep improving and we got the win. Okay, thanks, Evan.
Yeah, when I watch him, I'm like, because I know he got bigger in the offseason, but like, I don't ever, like last year, used to look at him and go, oh yeah, he's thin.
He was,
I don't ever, maybe I'm just used to looking at him, but I'm like, I don't ever look at Evan Mobley, see him next to somebody and go, he's small, unless like it's like one of the biggest players, like Giannis or like Joel Embiid, which everybody looks like. You ever seen Jared Allen next to Joel Embiid? That's people like I said in the video, hey, Jared Allen's a bit undersized, and people were like, what do you mean he's undersized? I'm like, hey, look, not versus most guys. You put him next to Joel Embiid, and you start to understand what I mean by you put him next to Joel Embiid, Brook Lopez, underrated giant person, like huge man. You put him next to like some of those guys who are at the top of the East, you're gonna have to deal with. That's when you start to run into size issues with Jared Allen, where he's not the biggest guy in the world. But
which is funny. People probably like thought you were crazy for saying that, because you usually see him next to Evan, who is like skinnier than Jarrett. So it's like, oh yeah, Jarrett must be normal sized, but like Jarrett's on the skinnier side too. Yeah, I feel like it's in Evan, it's in his arms that he looks bigger. I feel like his legs still look like, very, very skinny, but like in his arms, you definitely see the strength more.
Yeah, definitely a lot to look forward to with this Cavs team. Ab, thank you for coming on. Make sure you check Ab out on her podcast, Just a Girl from Cleveland. It's available on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever podcasts are available. Please check it out. You also check her out on the Browns Digest, the Sports Illustrated Browns Digest. She has an article there when it's the Browns season. Podcast covers Cavs, Ohio State Buckeyes, everything. The Guardians, it's coming up, right? Spring's coming up. Guardians, Browns, free agency. Get ready, get locked in, and make sure you're checking her stuff out. It's always a pleasure having you on to do this show. Everybody else, have a great day. Have an even better night.